So yeah, I've always been like a lover of music since I was a young child. I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri, and I grew up on the north side of St. Louis. And I remember like my aunt would come home a lot. Like I lived in this two-family flat with my mom and like some of her siblings that were still living there. But my aunt would come home and I would like drag her hand to her album collection and got inspired by oldies and like R&B and all of those things through her. And then like I got a lot of my music tastes also from like my dad, who listens to like a lot of like West Coast music, but also like craft work. So he also takes a dive into like deeper or eclectic genres of like electronic music also. And then like my mom is a smooth jazz girl, so I listened to a lot of smooth jazz growing up, and like Sade, obviously my middle name as well, brought up listening to a bunch of Sade and just like George Duke and like all these range of artists, Lonnie Liston Smith, like anybody you can think of like a smooth jazz radio is how I was getting my music taste early on. And that involved into me later wanting to learn how to do like music production. I actually started doing that in high school. I had like an iPod and stuff before, back in that time and space when CDs and things were popular and having an iPod. So I would like download tons of music there. And then later on from there, I would start collecting records once I got to college. And that was just a beautiful outlet for myself. And records then were super cheap. So, I was able to shop more dollar bins, $5 records purely off of music discovery. So it was nice to immerse myself in that, and having a background also like from playing the flute and the piano also to accompany like my growing music taste. After college, I had moved to Los Angeles, and I was supposed to go to school, like go to dental school and explore more deeper into my science practices, but I personally just it was not like happening for me. So I really kind of took that opportunity to lean more into the creative spaces. So I did work a bunch of odd jobs out in Los Angeles, and I mean like literally any and everything you can think of. And I was a personal assistant for like a brief stint to Masego, to like doing more like creative consulting with DJs and a few artists. And so I was just trying to find a way to express myself since I already was building out my record collection and going to these different record shops. So I started out as a blog first. It was called Glow of Sunrise, and I wanted to really like highlight, do some storytelling with other women. And then I realized that it needed to be something deeper to kind of like find and bridge that community gap with Black women like myself. And so I ran with Black Girls Love Vinyl and continued to do like the interviews. And, we've kind of gone on to do like live series on Instagram and just building it out now to what it is, which is like programming efforts in like New York, LA, St. Louis, and New Orleans as like, some foundational cities right now. I think for me, like vinyl really saved my life when I was in college. Like it was the outlet that kind of opened the doors for me. Like when I walked into the record shop, and it just felt like I was in this world of like endless different music. Like it just poured into me even more. And I feel like having a record is more of a statement piece. Like I have a collection of CDs, I've dealt with cassettes and various formats too, like through dance and stuff like that. But with records, I just felt something different. I felt the timeless and nostalgia of it all. And like you can inherit records even from other people, they travel throughout many destinations. And like I've acquired records from my grandfather and my dad. And so I think for me, records is more of a statement piece, is very bold, an expression of your music taste. So I really want to define that through the storytelling of other Black women for us to showcase our music taste does matter. And, it's a square, it's a 12 by 12. And I just feel like, it's just such a statement to compliment yourself as a person and your existence, and what you offer to being here on earth. So yeah, it's just a attachment to your story. So, I mean, I'm still figuring it out, to find more ways. And I feel like we just started with events. Like last year was really kind of like that opening to more consistency around events. So, trying to even come up with more social events. Our deluxe edition series is part of our ongoing programming. So far, it has started out with more of like connecting through just the listening of music through the vinyl DJs that we have. So I like to choose settings that are around more comfortability, around like, like that feels more like a living room setting. So like we've chosen like hotels specifically to complement that type of atmosphere. But also, we're diving into more like dialogue and storytelling. And so I think kind of switching over in that outlet is beautiful for us to kind of, share more experiences with each other on a deeper level beyond just hearing music being played on speakers in late night, drinking vibes and stuff. So it's really able to reflect on the music together. And also, like, we're doing a hi-fi audio file immersion tomorrow, which allows for us to learn more about that culture and how us as Black women can, and women in general too, to really accompany space, because it is a male dominated field where hi-fi is very expensive. The equipment is like $80,000+. So I just want to expose us to have those experiences and learn more about those equipment, how it's used, and the different sound, the nuances of sound, and make sure that we have these opportunities specifically for women only too. All of them have truly been my favorite. I will also say the one that we did exclusively at Audio-Technica, at their Technica house out here in New York, was really special because it was super intentional. We also did like a vinyl swap within that, where everyone was able to write personal notes to the record that was going to be, swapped it out to someone else. So it was nice to leave as like a good parting, like gifting takeaway. And I just thought it was so beautiful because we were able to really connect and be vulnerable in listening to music around each other, like with headphones and everything. Everybody was kind of like in their own world, but in a world and space of each other. So I feel like that's my favorite because it allows for more, like I say, conversational pieces versus like the partying. But I do love our deluxe edition series. Like, we have a great time. We sell records sometimes and bring in other partners in the community too. And yeah, it's all been nice. And even the meetups we've done like in St. Louis and New Orleans at the record shops, those have been super beautiful too, to connect with each other in that space. I mean, the biggest takeaway and feedback that I've heard is like, this is so intentional. Like, thank you so much for creating, intentional experiences. And that's super important to me, not to just, because we're not really an event series, this is a movement. So I definitely want people to feel like they are taking memories, lasting memories with them. So it's really nice to hear when they're, honoring it and respecting and knowing that it was intention behind it, because I really do strive for that and making super curated experiences. And as I'm also trying to grow a team, I think it's important that these type of programming efforts are in place. So when someone comes in, it's like we're building on top of those things to create more, community driven experiences that are super intentional, not just a one-off like event. Okay, what's the next thing? So that's been like the great positive feedback. The other feedback also is, can you come to Atlanta? Can you come to Charlotte? Can you to all these different cities? And the answer is I would love to. I would love to come to Chicago. I would love to, take space in those different cities. But it is a slow build, like I am doing a lot of this by myself. We have an intern newly and like someone helping on the West Coast for more like those events that are happening there. And then we do have like chapter hosts and leads in St. Louis and New Orleans. But I have to like also provide leadership to these people as well. And I don't want to bring in a bunch of people when I'm not, ready to take on and balance like 10 cities at a time. So yeah. The moment, honestly, it's really the consistency, girl. Like, sometimes it's just, hey, we did it today. And that's really what I'm proud of, to just keep going and keep pushing the efforts, because to do write-ups, to be your graphic designer, to be your marketing person, to be all these different things is truly difficult and challenging. But I feel like I'm proud of really expanding my personal skill sets within, and I'm always looking for more opportunities to grow and be better, and looking for feedback from the people I am working around. So I'm just proud of the execution, honestly, just seeing it all unfold every day. There's definitely a long-term vision. I see it being, like I said, it is a movement. So I do feel like I want to make marks for a legacy long term. So I have started on some curatorial projects that are super near and dear to me. So I think seeing something more long term in the curatorial space is super important. Building out more programming efforts and also giving back to schools and things like that, and building out some type of, I don't know, programming within schools. So maybe a nonprofit could be an option, or something like that. I don't know. I know nonprofit work is a lot, but if any way we're giving back in a great, bigger way is super important to me. So yeah, I've started like a archival project which is called like Godmothers on Record, and I've basically been documenting women that have contributed to either founding their own record labels or working behind record labels, and collecting those records, those presses, and having them within our personal archive. So that's something that I see long term, in housing that into a space. I think definitely supporting in any way, definitely like if you're subscribing to our newsletters, that really helps, because we do announce a lot of things first there. I do an exclusive series of recommendations of records from my personal digs throughout my journey. So I think supporting like the newsletter efforts, obviously attending events or just resharing them to your community and network is super helpful. And, resources do help also. I know it's not about money, but also it does help us keep the programming going and uplifted. So, that helps also. But really just supporting in any way that you can, like engaging with the information we put out and giving feedback, saying, hey, I love this. And, if you're sending a message, I will try my best to respond, even if it's through the contact sheet. I think just, expressing anything you feel, and just following the movement and being able to support anyway.